All right, everybody, what's up? It is the Friday Mastermind. Every Friday, 9 o'clock, we are here in this community to bring leadership, talk about topics that are super important. Of course, for those of you that came early and were here on Facebook or you're in our live audience, you got to hear us talk about the Cowboy game and how Philadelphia took them out. Todd Bookspan, congratulations. Todd is not here right now because him and his brothers went and watched the game in Philly. And Deborah, I see you rolling your eyes. What's up, girl?
God, because he was blowing me up on text, and I'm like, bro, go to bed. It's past your bedtime. Like, get a better stadium that has a retractable roof, cheap ass. We were giving each
Guys,
other.
did you sense a little Dallas
Struck a
Cowboy
nerve.
hostility?
Struck a nerve.
All right.
We played
All
very
right.
well.
So, by the way, everybody, you told me what city it is. Who's your football team, guys? This Sunday is kickoff of the NFL. And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about how many teams I love. I mean, I'm Broncos first, 49ers second, because I've lived in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle number 3. But I could go on. Like, I love everybody. And then I thought to myself, there's only one team I do not love and never will. I'm not going to use the word hate, but I will never wish good things for the Raiders. So, Brian, do you have a favorite football team?
I'm a 49ers guy.
Let's go Niners, number 2.
Been rough last year, but yeah. I won't say this is our year because I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Hey, between the Broncos and the 49ers, it's going to be one of them.
There you go.
All right, Deborah, anything you want to say to kick this off since you helped get Ryan Grant on this awesome call and you helped create the headline and the title of the day?
Well, first, I want to say that I don't love the Raiders either, but as soon as Tom Brady came in the picture, I'm like, okay, I may be able to get on the Raiders bandwagon with Brady being there, which just is the power of a brand. Like I had watched the Shaquille O'Neal Reebok documentary, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna go buy some pumps. Like, where do I get some old school shoe pumps? Because I just love Shaquille and I want to support him. So, just a little micro lesson here on just the value of having a personal brand. And when people buy into you, you could convert them from hating or disliking the Raiders to then maybe buying a shirt and going to a game.
So,
But I,
by the way, I need to interject on that. I will say, having Brady on the team and behind it, it's reduced a little bit of the hostility. And definitely, I would be surprised if they are not trending, in a positive way. But yeah, I will never wish good things for that team.
well, I'm excited about today's call just to have you on, Ryan. I think, we've heard about AI and it's kind of been the buzzword, but it's also been something that's been very time consuming and almost even a concern for loan officers or even leaders of just like, where do you get started? And, we've dabbled with it here and it's not really working. And so I just know from watching you online and attending some of your webinars that you do every month, like you guys are really pioneering this. And I know y'all made a big move, and this is something that, you talk about quite a bit. Dave, I know you guys were both at the AI Summit, even just here recently. And so I thought for those who are really trying to dial it in and they know that there's LOs that have exited this space, that means then there's more market share we can go get and we can take. But how do we do that where we're not adding on all this overhead and increasing our capacity, and how do we stay profitable? And so I just thought having you on to speak into this group that may be wondering, how do I grow and how do I do it efficiently while keeping the cost down? Who better to have than you? So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. And I'm going to say a few more things to frame it, and then we will formally bring on our special guest. So what's up, Shannon O'Hare? She just commented down below, by the way. She said, to be clear, that's the power of a strong jawline. She was referring to Tom Brady. So
That dude gets better with age.
there is some truth to that. And speaking of that, our special guest has a pretty damn strong jawline himself. But before we get to Ryan, I'm gonna post a text I literally got this morning. I got this post that said, I am trying to get my head around AI is currently impacting mortgage and how we think it might impact moving forward. Is there anyone I can pay a consulting fee in order to give me, an advantage to bring me up to school? So I already responded to that. I actually introduced that person to Katie Shive, who's the head of marketing for First Home IQ, who's also doing some really awesome AI consulting. I'll put a link to follow her on Instagram. I personally hired her to create my, I don't know what you call it, but my brand book that I've put into AI along with my code that's helping me crush it with AI. Also, Shannon and I did this walk and talk. By the way, the person who sent me that is one of America's top producers. I mean, that's $100 million producer that sent me that text. And then Shannon is someone who's a badass mortgage coach in Bozeman, Montana. She is also now a First Home IQ ambassador. So Shannon, welcome. But she was telling me how, like, I was asking her, like, hey, what are your goals this year? What are you trying to do? How do you want to end the year? And I was really expecting like a production number from her. Like, oh, I want to close X number of loans. It's like, I want to really get up to speed with AI, like by end of year. And so Shannon, let's execute on that. I do want this to be a really interactive mastermind. So please, we got another 52 minutes. Put questions that you have for myself, Ryan, or Deb, and we'll answer every question that comes in. So Ryan, again, you are leading the Neo Better brand. I don't know. Better's got to be one of the biggest investments in technology. You got Rocket, you've got Zillow, you got Better. Obviously, there's a number of other large top 10 lenders, Rate, Guild. Again, I'm not going to name them all off, but companies that have invested a fortune in tech, and you're one of them. And and Chad, the president, were on stage at the AI Summit. So first of all, why don't you start with um, give people cliff notes from what you shared at that AI Summit, because you guys were on stage, mortgage executives got to hear you guys deliver a briefing on it. I do recommend, if Housing Wire makes that available, that everybody listens to that along with the CTO of Rocket had a presentation, the CTO of UWM had a presentation. The whole stage was awesome, but the three that I would recommend is Better and the two I just mentioned. So Ryan, give us some thoughts, bro.
Yeah. Deb, if you want, you can just drop the YouTube link here in this chat and drop it on Facebook Live. They can watch the whole session there. But
Oh, it is
uh,
live. I didn't even know. By the way, Deb,
yeah,
or
That's what
Paul.
I was about to do.
Okay, and Paul, if you could dig up the other two that I found, and if you're watching this on YouTube right now, there'll be a link down below. Thank you, Scott Nicholson. It'll be one link from housing.link. And within that link, we'll have links to all three of these. And I mean, if you want to crush it with AI and know what the future looks like, here's some content that you need to consume.
yeah, yeah. I was really honored that the Housing Wire team asked us to share because, I think that there's more fear around AI in the mortgage industry than there is optimism. And I don't think that that should be the case. I think that, in with the lack of education and the lack of what I would say, like owning AI as opposed to AI owning you, it's going to be scary, right? Because I've had more conversations with mortgage professionals than I'd care to admit, where people say like, I don't know if we have longer than 3 to 5 years before, there's no mortgage professionals anymore. And I couldn't more strongly disagree with that sentiment. I think that we're actually there's an article coming out on Monday in Housing Wire that I wrote. They asked me to write about this specific topic, and essentially the message that the loan officer is dead and dying, but the mortgage advisor is going to thrive. And the mortgage advisor of the future has to realize that their value proposition has almost nothing to do with what it used to be. Like there's still people that tell me, well, I'm really good at my pre-approvals, right? I'm very good at, you know, my guidelines, and like when I say someone's going to close, they're going to close, and I can get tough deals done. I can close fast, and I have good client communication, and my customer service is amazing. No one cares about that anymore. Right? Like if that is part of your value proposition, you're going to be on the wrong side of this trend. right? The mortgage professional of the future is going to use AI to create efficiencies that remove 95% of the work we've done for the past 4 decades, right? We're just not going to do most of what we have done. And what that means is that with the 5% of our time, the 5% of the things that we do, we get to spend most of our time being great at those, right? And those things, in my opinion, are client consultations where we remove fear and anxiety. We help people manage the emotion of money in real estate because that's, people aren't logical about money, they're emotional about it. We educate, we inspire, we motivate, we remove fear and anxiety. We help people realize if they can buy a home, why they actually should do that. And then we make a more bold commitment than we've ever made. So if Deborah's my client, I'm going to talk very little about the transaction other than making sure that they know how we're going to help them before, right? What we're going to do during. But my main commitment and the reason why Deborah should use me over anybody else is because of mine and my teams and our realtor partners' commitment to help Deborah and her family become more generationally wealthy than they would be without us. Full stop. And that's a hard commitment for most people to make because they can't show up that way all the time. Why? Because they're doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. Right? They're calculating income, they're chasing conditions, they're, you know, in their pipeline, they're managing their closings.
They're renaming documents.
Yeah, just like if you really did a deep audit of a mortgage professional's day, most of it is not genius zone work, right? It's stuff that can and should be replaced through a combination of team and automation. And that's really what the highest producing originators have figured out for the last few decades is that if they can stay in their genius zone, which is lead generation, visibility, and really leadership, they can help an infinite number of families. The problem is we need to shift away from that thinking of just team, right? Where our metric and if it I'm fortunate I get to meet with a lot of the top originators in the country because I've been inserting myself in those circles for the past 15 years. Everyone's metric is 5 to 6 families per month means you need to have one additional team member, and that has worked for all of us and it's been great. It's just not going to work anymore, right? Because the amount of overhead that creates, the amount of, fixed overhead in employee cost and insurance and all these things, it just makes it so that your margins have to be high enough to cover that cost. And you can't deal with the volatility of the market appropriately. You have to hire and fire as the market moves. So where AI is going to come into play is it's going to create superpowers for every team member. So now you can be at 15 to 1 as opposed to 5 to 1 or 20 to 1 as opposed to 5 to 1. So, a 5-person team can help 100 families a month, right? As opposed to 50 teammates to help 100 families a month. All right, so that's really where AI will pick up efficiencies. It's going to be helping all of us be in our genius zones. And it's used in lead generation, it's used in lead conversion, it's used in fulfillment, it's used in execution from contract to close, and then it's used very skillfully in post-closing value creation. So it's got a full spectrum of where it can be utilized.
So, so first of all, so well said, Ryan. I mean, you do such a great job of communicating this, guys. I want to add a few thoughts, Deborah. I want you to do the same, but I want everyone to think. I mean, 2025 is a real pivotal year. I mean, it will go down as the year not of AI, but of agentic AI, where agents really started to drive efficiencies. And when you think of what is the modern mortgage experience, it's really simple. It's the fastest, most efficient way of delivering, value and convenience to a consumer. And it just so happens in 2025 that means technology was involved and AI was involved. And and when I think of what 2025 looks like, I mean, the illiterate of 2025 are not those who can't read and write, because let's face it, you don't even need to be able to read and write anymore. You can talk into your iPhone
Thank
or
God.
Android
Thank
phone,
God.
and you can create amazing content. And what everyone needs to become, like, if you're in the mortgage business, you need to get really good at unlearning old school workflows and old school ways of doing things, and then learn to use AI and tools like Mortgage Coach. Mortgage Coach has never been more important. We are leaning into AI in a very prolific way in every way. How can we be better AI driven executives? How can we be better at creating software and code leverage enhanced by AI? How can we make what Ryan said, helping customers get clear and confident around how to, what he said, build generational wealth with real estate? Like, you need to be able to, like, say that I specialize in helping families accelerate wealth, optimize equity, and gain confidence. Like, you cannot sell, I close loans on time, I have great rates, I'm a broker, whatever. Like, people, what they care most is confidence and clarity. So Deborah, any questions or comments you want to say before we look for any questions from the audience?
Well, the only thing I would add to what you just said about the fastest and efficient way to the consumer is that it's also allowing us to customize and make it more tailored quicker and faster too. Um, so there was a question in the chat from Rick that I think is a valid one that I'll just go ahead and ask now because I think it rents space in a lot of people's minds. So thank you, Rick, for asking it. But he said, how will we use AI to do the things my LOA does to keep me out of the application and document collection process and spending more time in his productive genius zone? So I think what he's asking is like the specific either AI tools that are being used, or like how exactly do you use AI to collect the docs and do those things?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's one, as if you're an originator, a mortgage advisor, a loan officer, whatever it is you call yourself, right? The thing that you really need to call yourself is a leader, right? Because your team is going to depend on you as a leader to help them do more and be more safe in this industry, right? Because they don't want to be disrupted either, right? They don't want to, processors, loan consult or loan coordinators, LOAs, fill in the blank on with the teammates you have. Um, the best way for them to find safety and fulfillment in their work is for them to be in their genius zones as well, right? And most of it is not going to be, Rick, in document collection or application taking or any of that stuff, right? So if your AI is built into your LOS, right, as the client is filling out their application, your LOS will waterfall all the appropriate necessities that they need.
Deb, anything you want to add while we're waiting for Ryan to
Yeah,
jump back in
I,
here?
I was going to say, I think what will be easier for you guys, and if you're watching this on the replay on YouTube, is first make a list, like a task list of all the things that either you are doing or your LOA. And this could be like an LP1 or an LP2, but make that list. And then as Ryan is talking about how they're using AI to do these items now, just put like a little check mark next to those things. So that way you can go back and visit that list or even DM Ryan and see how exactly, because Ryan's very open with his stuff. Like he's free willing, he'll give it to you. I will say you just have to be bold and you just have to ask. So make sure you guys are following him on Instagram or LinkedIn, and I'll put his handles in the chat as well. But first things first, you got to make the list.
So if your LOS can waterfall all the tasks to the consumer, right? They shouldn't need to upload bank statements a lot of the times. They shouldn't need to upload pay stubs and W-2s because your system can go grab that from their profiles, right? They can put in their passwords, they can do those things because it prompts them to do it. And then if they do need to upload stuff because maybe they don't have the connection with their bank, maybe they don't have the work number or the ability to connect with their employer, well then as they're uploading their documentation, your system should be able to read the bank statements, right? They should be able to read the W-2s and the pay stubs and fill out the application appropriately. And then it'll run AUS. It'll do all of the work that typically LP1, a production partner, an LOA would have to do, right? It will do a lot of the work that a processor would do. So if you look at the scope of your team, what we are
But
telling
Brian,
our team,
can I ask something real quick on
yeah,
that? Because I think for some, they may be wondering, you know, from old school tools like Loanbeam or, you know, different things that they've tried using that will automatically calculate income for you or whatever. And it's not always super accurate to where they just quit using it. How would you rate your integration with AI in reference to what some people may be thinking it could be similar to, and so they may even be discounting it? Not to
yeah,
put
I
you on
think
the
this is really where the, Frankenstein's monster version of AI becomes challenging, right? If you're bolting on things to a system that doesn't have AI embedded in it, it becomes more challenging because you have disparate communication with different, not only companies, but like systems and infrastructures. Like they're just going to talk to each other differently. If it's all built internally, like in our system, for example, if we are reading a document with OCR, it will give a confidence score. And if that confidence score is high enough, we don't need to do anything with it because we know that it confidently read all the right documentation. If the confidence score is too low, then that's when the human aspect comes into play, right? And then they can go in and really and dive in and do what they need to do. But look, in most of mortgage lending, we always use the minimum amount of information necessary because we don't want to ask for more documentation than we need to make a strong underwriting decision. And so if our confidence score is there, then we don't need to do more. But if it's not, then we will need to ask for that next layer, but the system will do it. Right. So our system will tell us confidence score is too low. Do you want me to craft an email to the client that says XYZ? Yes, send, go. Right. And then if something comes back in, we can talk to our LOS like a human and it'll say, hey, this just came back in. It updates the DTI. Do you want me to craft a solution for it? And then it'll just go through and it'll find the solution. But the key is the originator is not involved in that in any way, right? Our credit analysts are involved in that. Our loan specialists are involved in that, right? But they're only involved where they really need to be. And everything else that we build is meant for them to add value to the client. So, for example, um, we previously, before having this technology, we used to have processors. This technology removes the need for processors. But our processes were talented. So what we did is we said, how can they add more value to our mortgage advisors? And how can they add more value to the consumer? So we just moved our processors up to the front end of the pre-approval process, right? So now we have our pre-approvals that are just rock solid because they're technology and credit analysts really early in the process. And now we've just added credit analyst weekend coverage where it's like, the thing that loan officers hate doing the most is doing pre-approvals on weekends. Well, we have technology and credit analysts that will do that so our team can, again, stay in their genius zone. And all we're trying to do with AI is figure out how do we take off every mundane, unnecessary task, and how can then we reallocate that human capacity to create more value for the consumer. That's really the beginning and the end of that equation. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. And if every person on the team is hyper focused on does it add value to the consumer, to the originator, or to the company for me to do this? If the answer is no, we solve it with technology. If the answer is yes, we keep doing it. And if we take enough stuff off their plate where they're like, hey, I'm kind of twiddling my thumbs here, well, then they can help another 10 families per month, but only in the way that's best suited for the value aspect of the equation.
Yeah. And I want to speak to this, accuracy of underwriting in a different way. Because one of the things I'm doing informally outside of our YouTube channel, and I actually did the first one on our YouTube channel yesterday. I actually interviewed the founder and CEO of experience.com, Scott Harris, who has over 65,000 loan officers using their platform over 300 lenders use that for reputation management. And I wanted to start doing what I call data stories, where, okay, I let me tell you how I'm using AI, and then let me tell you the data behind that. And by the way, Ryan, be formulating to see if you have any data stories around AI that you could share. And I know you do because I did a mastermind with Chad a couple weeks ago, and he was
Yeah.
sharing data in that mastermind. And I think you guys shared some data from stage. But guys, they went from a year and a half before implementing AI that less than 7% of the reviews had comments from loan officers. And I think everybody knows that if you get a bad review, it's a good idea to reply to that. Like it helps you with referrals, it helps you with your customer satisfaction scores, it helps you in SEO ways. I mean, like it's a best practice thing to do. And they have gone from 7%, and I can't remember the exact number. I think he said 92%. He might have said 94%, but over 90% of reviews now have comments because they're using AI. And he had spoken to how there was a lot of fear where a lot of loan officers did not want to let AI do it. And he said, and hey, there were, the first few months, there were some things on AI that the way it responded, we were like, ooh, we don't want that to happen again. But guys, AI comments on reviews with experience have, what is that, like 10x increased the adoption of that best practice. That's one data story. By the way, I put a link to that interview. Highly recommend whether you're a loan officer. I mean, we kind of did the interview for executives. Like Ryan, I highly recommend you listen to it.
Yeah.
I got takeaways that I will be applying at Trust Engine. There were takeaways, reminders for every executive that wants to remain, every leader that wants to remain relevant and thrive going forward in that. But at Mortgage Coach, we a month ago, maybe it's 3 weeks ago, we rolled out AI in the Mortgage Coach total cost analysis so that borrowers can ask questions in that AI. Fastest adoption we've ever had. We've got over 4,000 loan officers using it weekly. We have over 1,800 customers getting, borrowers asking questions, getting answers that they would have never gotten before. Like massive adoption. So what was it? The CTO of Rocket was talking about AI voice and how it's beating humans with warm transfers. And their Rocket, it's in their quarterly statements. They're sharing that AI is beating the human experience at different touch points. So I don't know exactly where it is in underwriting. Like for anyone that's like, where is the future going? It's that everything that can be automated will be automated. Everything that AI can do, it will do. Like whether it's 1 month from now, whether it's happening today, or whether it's 1 year from now. And by the way, it's happening quick. Like AI is doubling in speed and power every 3 months. So that means a year from now, everything that AI can do will be 8x better than what it can do today. So back to you,
I
Ryan.
think I think that's a good segue, Dave, into how we need to be thinking as mortgage professionals. Because if AI is going to 8x, right, what it can do today in a year from now, why can't we as mortgage professionals? All right, so I did a webinar. We have a monthly webinar series that we do, and I asked everybody on the webinar, if you had a magic wand and in 3 years you can help as many families as possible in a year, right? What would that number be? And it's in an 8-hour day, right? Not working nights and weekends, right? What's your wildest magic number? And the results were shockingly low. It was 200, 250, 300, 350. And I'm like, this is not how, like, if you're left in this industry, if you're still here, right? If you're an engaged mortgage professional, that number needs to be 1,200, right? It needs to be 100 families a month, right? Because you will focus exclusively on lead generation, lead conversion, and business development. That's the mortgage professional of the future. And I realize when I say that, it doesn't really sound like doing mortgages, right? It sounds like being a marketer. It sounds like being a billboard. It sounds like being a lead director. But a lot of it has to do with leadership of your team, right? And so I talked about if you're using AI appropriately for lead generation and lead conversion, you can be generating 200 to 400 leads a month coming into your system that are not warm referrals from realtors, database, past clients, CPAs, financial planners. And you need to find ways to ingest that level of lead generation because lead generation is going to change. Ryan Serhant was on a podcast the other day. I shared this, and he's like, "Look, referrals aren't going to be what they used to be. Like the new generation of home buyers and home sellers, they're looking online, right? They're doing their information. They don't really care about their parents' realtor, and they probably don't want to work with their parents' realtor." He's like, so all the best realtors are losing their databases to search and to AI and to optimization of getting to clients before they even know they want to buy a home. Like we're getting to them really early. So we need to think as mortgage professionals, how can we get farther up the funnel into lead generation, focus on incubating that, creating as many pre-approvals as possible, taking it out to our agents and our business partners, and then having another kind of source segment of the business that handles the warm referrals. But we should all be striving to help 50 to 100 families a month. And if we use technology appropriately, and if we build teams at scale, we will be able to spend more time with each one of those clients. We will be bothered less on nights and weekends. We will actually be more valuable with the advice and guidance we give, and we can make a much larger, more financially forward commitment that we've never been able to make in the past because we haven't built the systems to execute on that level of commitment. That is the future of this industry. Like, and I don't know, like, I'd love for someone to try and prove me wrong, right? But that's what everybody should be building towards. Like that level, because market share is not going to evenly distribute. Market share is going to go to the people who are lead generating at scale, who create scalability and technology in their teams, and who have the ability to engage with the best local business partners. Like it's going to be a disproportionate allocation of market share, right? And in order to get your unfair share of the market, you just have to make sure that you have the ability to create and execute at that level.
All right. So guys, I think we've covered like it's happening, the beliefs that we have. I think the data is out there. It's very sound. I want to get tactical on just a checklist of things that if you are a loan officer and you want to be the optimized mortgage advisor, like check, like skills check. And um you need to be a mortgage coach. Like if you're still delivering a fee worksheet to a customer, here's your rate, here's your payment, here's your cash to close. That is not a fantastic tool to get people super excited about buying a home in this market. So you need to give more data, give options. Um, you know what AI doesn't know and probably never will know? What the assumptions a family has around whether values are going to go up in their local market. Like, you know who's going to know what a family's assumptions are about how homes are going to appreciate in their local market? That human being knows that. They don't know what the assumption that consumer has around are rates going to go up or down. They don't know what their assumptions are, and they don't know what their goals and dreams are. They don't know what age they want to achieve financial freedom. They don't know if that customer wants to own their home free and clear or have enough money in a asset account that paying off that home is a strategic financial planning decision. So like these are things that you need to be able to ask a consumer in a highly empathetic way, and then you need to deliver an AI presentation to that consumer. So like that's one thing y'all need to do. And I do want to remind everybody there is trustengine.com/10x. I haven't updated it for a while, but I'm literally was like a wake up call to me during this conversation that we need to update that link so that you guys have what you need. Like of all the interviews that I do, what is like 5 hours, like an hour a day for a week worth of content that if you consume this content, you're going to be prepared right now in this market. And by the way, this market is a market where rates are coming down, purchases are going up, there's some sniper shot refis taking place, and potentially we are, entering a time where there will be both refis and purchases happening at scale at the same time. So Ryan, what are a few other things? Oh, and by the way, Ryan, I know at Neo you guys are big mortgage coaches, but like how do you communicate like why a loan officer should go from being a loan officer to a mortgage coach? Like what's the Ryan Grant message on that?
The base level question is survival, because the market won't tolerate who we used to be. Once a client is presented with a total cost analysis, especially the next gen version of it, right, with AI built in, and it can happen quickly at speed with scale. Like I can't even imagine trying to have to go over numbers with 50 to 100 families a month in person every single time, and that is just such an antiquated capability. And what we need to ask ourselves is, what are we building for? Right? And we talk about that at Neo every day, right? We are not building things at Neo for today. We're building for them for 5 years from now. And if we know that our team is going to help 50 to 100 families a month, we need to build every system for them to be able to tell their clients how valued they're going to be at scale. Right? Like I can't tell someone how I'm going to go over their options with them and show them and update their terms and update their purchase prices as they're out into the market. There's no way I could realistically tell 50 to 100 families a month that I could do that in any sort of scalable way if I didn't have Mortgage Coach. Right? If I didn't have the ability for that to auto-populate, update as clients are maneuvering, have AI built into it. Like we just have to use every system at that level of thinking. Right? And that allows us to do it. Another thing is just the predictive analytics nature of it. Because you talked about this, Dave, like, what AI won't know is if clients are concerned about housing prices going up or down, right? Or, what they should do with their parents' home. Well, we need data to help us know what they're thinking before we ever call them, right? And if we I mean, big data is used in every industry across the United States. The mortgage industry is just very late to use it. But we all have access to big data now, right? And if we're using it appropriately for life cycle marketing and intuitive touch points, we can call someone right when they're thinking about the thing that we know they're thinking about. And we can take that fear and, they're trying to kind of wrestle with logic and turn it into an emotional connection point that helps them plan for the future. That's the mortgage professional of the future. If one of our clients who we've ever helped calls us and says, "Hey, Dave, I want to buy, sell, or finance a home," you should have a sinking feeling in your stomach because that means that you didn't do your job. That means that they're just calling you after they've done the hard work. Right? But if we are so engaged with our clients, if we have data to know what's happening with their children and their parents and if they're getting divorced, if there's a baby that's born, if we have that data, we should be so far out in front of their way of thinking, right, that we can start to engage with them to help them make decisions. And that's where we become invaluable, right? Because they have that data, but they just don't know what to do with it, right? Wealthy people aren't wealthy because they have money. They're wealthy because they have information. But unfortunately, most of America doesn't have any sort of proactive, consistent level of financial information. We get to be those people. But we can only be those people if we stop doing everything we've done for the past 40 years. Right? We have to reframe who we are to the consumer and retool and rebuild our teams to be able to provide that level of proactive, continual advice and guidance.
So So I want to make sure you write that down. You need to be able to deliver price with advice. And really there's three elements to that. There's one, options. So showing options to the consumer. Two, showing how those options will perform over periods of time that are relevant to the customer. Don't just show everybody the difference over 60 months and 15 years. Like understanding that humans' goals and what times are relevant to them is how you differentiate in the future. The loan officer that kind of like gives everybody the same thing is going to have one result, and the loan officer that's building an experience that's tailored to that family's goals and dreams is going to get another experience. And then check number three is making sure that you let them know how they could accelerate net worth growth, like whether that's prepaying the mortgage or whether that's strategically investing that money. And then there's other things, house hacking, helping, be the loan officer that showed that family how to help their kids get into homeownership in their 20s. By the way, Ryan, thank you for being, Neo Better is not only a Mortgage Coach Next Gen client, but they also are a lender partner of First Home IQ. So, you need to make sure you're doing that. And then what Ryan said is, oh, go ahead, Ryan.
You might beat me to this, but check number 4 is at scale.
Oh,
Because I think the miss here is that there's people out there that are still like, look, I don't need to use Mortgage Coach, or I don't need to use X, or I don't need AI because I'm doing all this. Okay, you're doing it for 2 families a month, 3 families a month, 5 families a month. Like that mortgage professional will get run over if they don't start helping 15, 20, 50, 100 families a month, right? So we have to stop asking ourselves, can we do it? And start asking ourselves, should we do it in a world where I need to do this 20 times a month, 50 times a month? And that's where your technology at Mortgage Coach, that's where AI integrated into your LOS, integrated into your CRM, integrated into your point of sale system, allows you to say, I can do this. Like I can execute my value proposition infinitely. That's where most people are missing because they're doing it okay today, right? But like staying where we're at is not an option.
yeah. Well, and I can't help myself, but I'm going to demo what's being released on Monday at Mortgage Coach. 3 weeks ago we released AI into the borrower experience. I could probably demo that at some point in this call because it'll take me less than a minute. But guys, this is what's hitting on Monday. Is we are having the new Mortgage Coach Next Gen app, which monitors your database, integrates with most CRMs, and we call them coaching opportunities. Tells you, and usually it's about 1% of a database. Hopefully, if rates come down fast, it'll be more than 1%, and we'll start seeing more rate and term refi opportunities. But every one of these things is a coaching opportunity. And so you will literally, for everybody that has Mortgage Coach Next Gen, Neo has this product, you'll be able to identify, by the way, move up, a borrower who is a move up opportunity. You'll be able to email, text, or call, have scripts, literally be able to just go from boom to boom, have a script. And guys, Mortgage Coach is built into this. The actual, think of it as your top of the funnel platform, how to get to more people at scale with relevant conversations. And then Mortgage Coach is built into it. It's got the presentation engine. And where literally you will be able to create a mortgage coach from this app. You'll be able to view a mortgage coach from this app. And by the way, guys, it's just a matter of time until AI will read the data, create the mortgage coach experience, and then it'll be up to the loan officer to augment that experience. Or, hey, if the loan officer hasn't augmented, enhanced it within 3 days, send it. Again, this is the future of mortgage. So for the loan officer, hopefully you're watching this. I told you I would answer your question. Like the future of the mortgage industry is everything that can be automated will. And the loan officer of the future is not a loan officer. They're a modern, data-driven mortgage advisor that is using technology incredibly well incredibly strategic to create convenience and value for borrowers. And then I like your point, at scale.
Yeah, we have a unique opportunity here, team, to make a real impact in our society. Um, most people are going to more and more people over time are going to start becoming, less committed or interested in human interaction. Right? Why? Because there's people out there that have relationships with their AI, right? Like it's a real thing, right? Because they're actually getting a better level of communication from AI than they are their partner, right? Or their friends. So people will retreat backwards away from human interaction, which means they're not going to get help navigating the emotional necessity of finance. They're not going to engage with financial planners or wealth managers or CPAs or estate planning attorneys. And so they're really going to be all on their own when it comes to everything real estate and financially related. And they're going to rely on AI to kind of be that person, that source of information for them. But it's not what people are really going to want. It's just what they're going to accept, right? Because nobody has ever stepped into that role for them in a meaningful way. Because most of America, it's built in our DNA to want to own land, right? It's why we fought a war. It's why we're here. We have a unique ability to get to that consumer and offer them something that no one else is offering them. And I'm not saying we need to manage their wealth. I'm not saying we need to do their taxes. I'm not saying we need to, help them sell them insurance. What I'm saying is that we need to be the one person or the one team in their life that commits to helping them grow their generational wealth without them needing to transact with us. And if, as an industry, as a real estate industry, and as a mortgage industry, we can change the narrative of what we've been to what we can be, every single person can come to us and start asking the question, hey, Deborah, I was referred to uh, by my neighbor. She said you guys were just really helpful in helping them kind of decide what to do with some real estate and finance, and I'd love to chat with you. That's the holy grail of what we're trying to do here. Has nothing to do with a mortgage, just has to do with advice, right? It has to do with, here's my situation. What would you do if you were me? Right? They're either going to ask you or they're going to ask ChatGPT. Right? And ChatGPT is not going to have the emotional connection or the relational connection or be able to like understand or read their response mechanism, see their face, like understand if they have questions further. We can do that, but it means we have to stop being everything we've been, right? And start being everything that we can be.
I think that's really important to point out, and something that I know you spoke about at the AI summit is that you're not saying that it's going to be all one way or the other. And that's what I think it was
Mhm.
really beautiful about the marriage between you and Better is it's almost like you guys were both hardcore the opposites.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
y'all
Couldn't
come
have been more
together.
different.
Yeah, and it's like there's a reason why it wasn't working the way that Better had previously done and why they needed you guys. So if you would talk about that a little bit, because I think for some they may be thinking, okay, 100 families a month, like I can't imagine
Eh,
that.
And and real quick, before you do that, I want to just do a little 1 minute poll because I think it'd just be interesting. September 5th of 2025, I'm pushing this poll out. Uh, and I want to know on this call, how often are you using AI? Is it throughout the day? Like, by the way, that's what I would check. Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? And or is it never? Like, hey, I'm just not using AI yet. And by the way, guys, I don't know your names. This is anonymous. Check it because I think it would be really interesting. Only 50% of you have voted. I think it would be useful for everyone to know where people are at on this. It'd be good for, I will share the results, not your personal result, but we're 47 seconds. Come on, guys, you know, hit the button. Let us know where you're at right now. And here's the results, guys. I'm going to push these results, and then Ryan, be ready to answer that question. There you have it. 60% of, and I'd be willing to bet that that's, this audience is more than the average, you
Yeah.
know. So, but it's still at 60%, it is using it daily. And by the way, that is where it's at. Like you really need to get into that throughout the day category. Now, by the end of 2025, be in the group of people that, hey, I'm using AI throughout the day to create convenience and value for home buyers and homeowners to build wealth and achieve financial freedom with real estate and home equity. Like, be that be that person, and you're going to love this job for decades to come. And if you're not that person, again, you're just choosing to run a race. One group can go uphill, one group can go downhill with the wind at their back, and you're like, oh, I want to run this race uphill if you are not in that daily camp. Deborah, one more thing, and then let's make sure Ryan has time to answer that.
Yeah, I can't remember what year it was, but I remember seeing Ryan on stage. I think it was Sales Mastery, and you were selling a thumb drive. And I remember buying the thumb drive, and the team, we learned your scripts because your scripts are epic. Um, and we got really good at regurgitating the fact that we want to help people, not just through the transaction, but then be that, client for life. And although it sounded really good and it helped us at the initial lead conversion, um,
Yeah.
it then created this monster of call reluctance after the close because deep down, we did not have the systems, the process, the bandwidth, the human to then deliver on the very thing that we said we were going to do, that work to get them to fill out the app and eventually go under contract. But it's like it then created this hole. And so, one, I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And there could be people who are
No.
listening that are like, yeah, we got really good at regurgitating this script, but like, how in the world do you then deliver on that without getting called out? And I think that's the light at the end of this tunnel. And what you're speaking on is it's not just using AI, because I feel like a lot of people, you may use it daily and it's like task in, task out. But with what you were talking about, and when it is integrated in your LOS, there's automation using AI so that you're not having to tell it to do every task and just help me write this better. It's already drafting it for you and like thinking two steps ahead. But back to my original point of why this didn't work as just better on its own, and why the marriage of you guys, and why AI absolutely needs the human involved for this to scale and really take market share. Speak to that a little bit.
Love that question. I think that everybody in this industry is building their business model around what they want the consumer and what they want the experience to be like for the consumer and for them, not building it for what it inevitably will be, right? Like when we were doing that, right? Prior to having the technology that we have that Better created, prior to having the lead generation, we were building what we wanted the consumer to want, flat out. Like we told ourselves the story that the consumer wants advice and guidance and blah blah blah, and they don't just want speed, they don't just want low rates, they don't just want technology, they need a human. And we had to live that story because we didn't have an alternative, right? We didn't have the technology, right? We didn't have the lead generation. This was you just put it in the thing, but we were Blockbuster, and we said people, want to come into the store and they want the popcorn and they want the videos. Oh, and by the way, we make, 12% of our revenue on late fees. So we're not going to switch. Well, there was another version, which was better, that said people don't want human connection, right? They just want low rates. They just want cheap. They just want fast. So they were building it for what they thought. Neither one of us were actually right. And what we did is when we went through this experience of like looking at the partnership, we said, I think the client wants both, right? I think they want lack of friction. I think they want speed. I think they want reduced cost. But they also would love a local mortgage professional that knows the market, that knows the local real estate teams. So let's stop building it for what we wish the client wanted, and let's start building it for what they actually are going to want. And that's why this partnership works well. And that not just a Neo Better thing. It could be, you and a AI vendor, right? It could be you and the way that you structure your team. It could be you and the value offering. To your point earlier, the consumer does want these long-term follow-ups. They do want the value, but they may want it in a more automated fashion, right? You may need to give it to them in a more automated fashion. And so, as an industry, we have to stop being so committed to who we are today and start being more curious and open-minded about what we can be and meet the client where they're going.
So guys, I need to wrap this up right on time, but here's a closing thought for everybody. Don't go back and think about your workflows. Go back and think about the ultimate consumer experience. I can tell you right now,
Yeah.
Rocket is obsessing over the ultimate, mortgage, home ownership, home acquisition experience, and really be open-minded to looking at what you do versus what you could do to deliver a better customer experience. And then go and build the work experience around the ultimate experience. And remember, you will be faced with, I need to unlearn this and I need to learn this. And then I need to keep relearning because it's moving fast. And that will, for executives that are watching this, that will be the ultimate skill, is to help local referral-based originators unlearn, learn, and relearn. And if you can master that, you're going to kill it. And I'm here, this YouTube channel. Make sure you have subscribed to it. Make sure you follow Ryan on social media. Make sure you follow the one and only Deborah Bird. Plug and play. We could do, again, we've talked a lot about it, but you got to have a brand, you got to have AI, you got to have a brand, and you need to be an advisor. So trustengine.com/10x is something that I personally keep updated, and 5 hours worth of content that will make you the ultimate advisor right now in this market. Take care, everybody. This is a wrap.
Thanks, y'all.
Appreciate you, Ryan.